So imagine that everything you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, feel, think, do, say, imagine that it's all just language. Now imagine that at the atomic level, there exists an intention to capture, process, apply, and transmit that language. In September 2014, a young physicist named Jeremy England determined mathematically that atoms function with intention, that they group and regroup with intention. And that intention is to construct the most efficient machine for capturing energy, processing it, and releasing it as heat. This suggests that with each new experience, each new grouping, atoms collect, process, apply, and transmit information. And then they carry this processed information, this data, into their next experience. All to construct the most effective collective. What I think Jeremy England has demonstrated is more than just atomic intention or evolution. What he's demonstrated is atomic language constructed from experience. We're all just data collection machines, all of us. And we're intentionally engineered to collect this data, to process this data, and to apply and transmit this data to build a more effective collective. We machines, we do this via many means and methods. We do this with sensorial input, right? We do this with facial and physical expression. We do this with movement and motion. We do it with colors. We do it with migrations and trends. It's all just energy. It's data, it's information, it's communication, it's language. It tells us something, but what does it tell us? Many people define literacy as the ability to read and write. I define literacy as the ability to interpret the world in which we live and compose a meaningful response. In other words, to capture, process, apply, and transmit data. Experience provides the broadest spectrum of data collection for the broadest spectrum of students. It creates context and meaning and applies value to the one-dimensional flat words we learn in a classroom. Less experience is proven time and time again to work against our atomic drive and to work against literacy, to work against the collection, procession, application, and transmission of data. Norway, Finland, Netherlands, and other countries are all testament to experience being a key factor in student achievement in literacy. Howard Gardner and Richard Allington, some of you may have heard of either of them, after research for 2 decades in classrooms, they more than adequately illustrate that experience deepens our understanding and facilitates literacy. In 2014, I collaborated with Stetzer Elementary Principal Janet Baldwin. several of our teachers, and Widener University. And in this project, their entire 4th and 5th grade student body studied estuaries. And so on the first day of this experiment, this experience learning project, we took the students to the John Hines Estuary. And we looked at estuaries, wildlife, intertidal zones, tidal impact. And these students had rarely been out of their burrow. So they were out of their element, and the slightest leaf rustle or a frog jump startled them, and they would scream and squeal and jump and then break out in laughter. But by mid-afternoon, these kids had us chasing them down overgrown paths and through mud bog looking for wild turkeys that they heard calling all day. I watched these kids through experience go from shy, cautious observers, quiet, underspoken learners, to these ravenous data collection machines. They were exploring and discussing and asking questions and extrapolating and finding meaning and applying value. And by the end of the entire project, these students were proficient in the language of estuaries, in the meaning and value of estuaries, especially the estuary near their community. In 2014, that same year in the summer, we applied this same experience to the teachers of Pinellas County, elementary teachers in Pinellas County, and we studied mangrove. Turns out teachers of all ages are just as excited to go wandering into bog and mangrove and coastal waters and thicket to explore and experience and collect and process and apply and transmit data. And the transmission was to their students in their classroom after they had collected all the data and processed it and applied it in their experience. And this was so successful that we now do it every year for Pinellas County teachers. This summer we're doing turtles and tortoises. Very exciting. And they are very excited. So everything tells us that experiential learning works. All the data we have collected and processed and applied and transmitted tells us that experiential learning works. It adds to the collective. It promotes literacy, which is the processing, the collecting, the processing, and the application, transmission of data, okay? There are two big obstacles to this heavily data-driven kind of learning. One is time. More than 1/3 of our annual classroom hours are spent on test prep and testing in our schools. And according to Gardner and Allington, test prep does little to add to the collective. It does little to build context for students, but it takes a lot of our time in classrooms. It does little to contribute to the collective. So time is a big factor. There isn't any left. We keep trying and there's just no time. So we come in the back door sometimes and we get the project in and we work it. The next big obstacle to experiential learning is money. Money, many will argue, there isn't any for providing 2 semesters of experiential learning for every grade level in every school in the country. I contend that if we divert all of the money back to the public schools from private charter voucher programs, from private jets, from luxury vacations, from high-dollar dining room sets, from private security teams, from stadium subsidies and corporate subsidies, and if we earn a fair share of any tax-funded corporate research and product revenues, then there's plenty of money to convert our schools into these powerful houses of energy exchange, balanced, sustainable, adding to the collective, So here's the question. If all of our collected, processed, applied, and transmitted data says that experiential learning works best, and if our atomic drive is to advance the collective, then why are we still investing all of our energies in an unsustainable, unbalanced exchange system? And how are we going to change this? Thank you.